Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and our next guest is Leisa Peterson, founder of WealthClinic. Welcome to Radio Entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
So tell us a little bit about your business and perhaps your journey to founding of your business.
Yeah, I'm a financial coach and I focus on mindset, planning. I used to be a financial advisor, but I walked away from that 11 years ago to focus more on the education underneath what's going on with people's money. I realized that a lot of people could help people invest, but not a lot of people understood what it took to change the mind around money. And it was the Wild West 11 years ago in the online world. It's come a long way, but it's been an incredible journey. And I'm really grateful that I found a way to make it work, because for anyone who's ever left the corporate world, it isn't a sure thing when you just like, I want to do this and let's see what happens. But thankfully, it's worked out really well.
Fantastic. So you focus largely on mindset. What is it that is at the core of mindset around, is it wealth or financial success or financial management? Or I would imagine a lot of it has to do with mental blocks that people have.
Yeah, totally. 25 years of working with people in money showed me that some people really have it figured out, but the vast majority of people are struggling to have more, save more, invest more, to feel better at night about what they've created with money. And interesting enough, my story is I grew up with very little. Money was a source of stress when I was growing up. I decided at age 8 that I would start a business and I wanted to have money. And if I had money, everything would be better in life, because my parents were not very happy with their lives and money. So fast forward, when my husband and I started building wealth, I started to realize that it wasn't just about the money, that we needed to have our relationship with money in balance. And what that led me to figure out is that I was really living in scarcity, and that there was another way to approach money, which we'll just call an abundance mindset. And that's really kind of overused these days because, it sounds really cool, like just go from scarcity to abundance, but it's actually a pretty arduous journey for most people because we're very programmed into more is better. I don't have enough. I need to figure this out. I don't have enough education around finance, so I'm going to abdicate my responsibility to other experts to help me figure it out. And what I've learned is that you can't really abdicate this relationship to other people. You really have to understand it, mostly starting from your thoughts about it, right? Our experience with money starts at below the age of 7, which is hard to even imagine. They've done all these studies about it. And so a lot of the stuff that you think about money isn't actually like based on your adult life. It's about things that were happening when you were young, whether it be the economy, what was happening in the home, what your parents' beliefs were about money. So scarcity was the big wake up call for me. And that's really where I focused a lot of my attention on, like, what causes someone to live in scarcity and what are the ways that we can change our patterns.
So it's fascinating because I would imagine, fast forward to being an adult and it changes dramatically when you've got that dynamic of two people that might have very different views on money, and how do you find a common ground that works for both of you, and recognizing, is if you're lucky enough to be parents, that mindset will be passed on to the next generation in some respect.
Yes, 100%. So much of my work explores the relationship that we have with like a partner, and also with our children, and also with our parents. It's why one of the reasons why I wrote my new book, which is a fictional parable, because I really wanted to get into exploring what's happening inside of our relationships when we come from totally different backgrounds, and yet we're trying to make peace with money, and we're going to be different. And how does that difference play into the relationship? I mean, many people know it's one of the top reasons for divorce are differences in money. And so there's so much there, but yeah, it's a big deal to understand and have respect for your partner about where they're coming from, and the fact that you're not just going to overwhelm them with your thoughts and ideas. You're going to have to learn about each other's experiences and find common ground.
Yeah, I would imagine that challenge is hardly reinforced based on personality type and whether people are prone to being worriers and other people are not. And as we've come through or are in the midst of what externally looks like very turbulent times from a financial perspective, at least certainly in the public markets, and people are concerned about being able to afford things. I mean, I don't think anybody is immune, whether you're very financially secure or not, immune from the fact that things are more expensive than they were 5 years ago. That's just a fact. And so how have you, first of all, your impressions on that, because you've seen a lot of it and you probably deal with it every day in your everyday work, and if you can impart upon us some of the wisdom for how people should approach it and any tips or tricks that you would suggest.
Yeah. I think that it's really important in these times. You're totally correct. It is a time of stress for a lot of people, whether we're conscious of it or unconscious of it, it's still present. And whenever there's uncertainty, it's going to heighten the feelings that we have inside our body and in our minds and in our thoughts. A lot of my work is oriented to mindfulness practices, to quick and easy things that people can do in a very short amount of time to pause, relax their nervous system, understand that they're on a journey, that it isn't about figuring it out perfectly, but it is about making sure that we don't make decisions in the height of our financial anxiety, because there's a lot of data about this. The scarcity mind, which is what happens when we're in that loop, it's like we've lost a full night's sleep, a loss of IQ of about 13 points. We want to make sure that we do not make big decisions until we've calmed down, that we've looked at all the options available to us, that maybe we've got some people that are really steady in our lives that we can go to be like, hey, I'm thinking about this decision. What do you think about it? And have them talk some sense into us, because unfortunately, we are more likely to make decisions from our past memories than our future vision. And what we want to do is know what that vision is, keep it front and center. And when we're making decisions and we're going to a friend, it's like we can start by saying, here's what I ultimately want. This is what I'm thinking about doing. And again, a steady friend, someone we trust and respect, who's made really good decisions with money, or a mentor or a guide, they can help us be like, wait a minute, let me poke holes in like what's going on here. And I honestly wish I've become better in my seniority of telling people, please know I'm here for those decisions. You don't even have to pay me. Like, just don't do it, because people will come to me afterwards. And this is where people get caught up in scams. They get taken advantage of. They buy things that don't actually achieve the objectives that they're wanting. If they had just slowed down and taken a little more time, they'd probably be in a far better place.
Great advice. I guess one of the things that I would try to understand better. I think we were a society, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a society that people don't, money and health are often things that people don't share with others. And even with great friends, and I'll put myself out here, people talk in generalities, and generalities can be very broad. Oh, it's expensive to send my kids to school, and yet, grandma and grandpa are footing the bill for that friend, and you're struggling to make ends meet or whatever it may be. So how do people navigate? You say reach out to somebody that you have confidence makes good decisions. But in my experience, anyways, they tend to be very generic. They're not down to the brass tacks of like, this is what I've got available, and this is what my horizon is, and this is what I need. And so is
Yeah.
that something that you find that people, even in your practice, I don't know if people get really specific and particular with you. It feels to me
Yeah.
like people go to financial planners and, they can have a relationship for 10 years and they've never told them about this account over there because they don't want them to know everything.
100%. You're totally right. And I think that the work I do now, because I don't manage people's money, it's changed the dynamics. People, because I've worked with thousands of people, they definitely share more with me than other people. But let's go back to what you're saying. Yes, we live in a society where people do not talk enough about money. It is one of the most refreshing, awesome, fun conversations when you learn how to do it. But if you did not grow up in a home or hang out with people that talk about money on a regular basis, you are like a kindergartner with it. And you need to respect that fact because it's going to take some time to open up. I've noticed that people who are in masterminds that are open book about their finances are completely different entrepreneurs than those who keep it all totally to themselves. Like it's drastic. I have noticed that sometimes I'll talk to people and I will send them very personal questions because they're curious about like what I do and how I can help them. And I'll ask them some questions. And I know that I'm going deeper than anyone probably has ever gone. And I sit back and I wait. And I'm always surprised because again, back to the masterminds, they're the people who really want more, who really are pushing themselves are like, here you go. This is what it is. This is what I've got. This is what I'm not happy about. This is what I really want to work on. And automatically we can have deep, meaningful conversations. But if people are like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't tell you how much I make. I can't tell you this. I don't share that with anybody. That's very private. Like, I'm not going to probably be able to help that person. And it's very, very powerful just to know yourself, which camp do you fall into? Because I'm telling you, you're probably going to make more, save more, and invest more if you become comfortable speaking about it. But you're right, most people aren't.
No, it's interesting, and I know that there's probably a generational difference. I mean, I think that I'll call them young adults today who grew up in a world of social media probably put more out there and are much more transparent in terms of it. I mean, I can think about my kids' generation, and it's probably not all that unusual for people to talk about their salaries. That was something when we were never grew up talking about, right? It was always a closely guarded secret. And so, it's fascinating how it's evolved. And it must bring, challenges to your work as well.
Yeah, it's good challenges. Again, I think this is why I write the books I do because I want people with a fictional book, it was all about getting past people's egos and allowing them to realize that conversations about money are very healing. So you're listening to somebody else's story, but you're like, wait a minute, I do that same sort of thing. I've had those same thoughts. I was the only one I thought that did that. So I'm trying to normalize what we're talking about here.
That's fantastic. And something that you said strikes me. Conversations about virtually anything are healing. The problem is we can't get to that point. Yes, they can be painful, but at the same time, getting it out of your own head and out of your own mind and sharing it with others is usually very healing for most people.
True. Yes.
Great stuff. Leisa Peterson, founder of WealthClinic. If people want to get in touch with you, people want to learn more about your work and work with you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
So, a couple ideas. One is if you're interested in learning about the Money Catalyst, go to moneycatalyst.book.com. You can enter your name, your email address, and 01, and that will get you all the free benefits, the beginning of the book, meditations, lots of goodies that I give when people buy the book, but it'll give you a great introduction to what we're talking about here and the mindset work. Another option is wealthclinic.com/vision, and that also has information about my first book, The Mindful Millionaire.
Fantastic. Leisa Peterson, founder of WealthClinic. It's been a pleasure having you on Radio Entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Jonathan.
And we'll be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.